Hello, my people in power, and welcome to Through the Looking Glass podcast, where we spotlight experiences, stories, and conversations of people from the African continent and diaspora. This is your host and sister in power, Kosi Danielle. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode on Through the Looking Glass. I'm joined by a special guest, Lorraine Tayamika Chilemba from Malawi. She's a content creator, feminist, and writer of Fried Hair, Steaks, and Alopecia. Thank you so much for your willingness to join me here today. So I'll give you the floor to say a few words.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be talking about this.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much, Lorraine. So let's get right into it. So I prepared a few questions and conversation starters for us. So can you give us insight and give our listeners insight to what fried hair, snakes, and alopecia is and why you wrote it?
Okay, so basically fried hair, snakes, and alopecia is a piece of writing that I made sometime in December of 2021. And it was just me trying to understand my hair journey, because at the time I was stuck between cutting my hair again or letting it grow. I just didn't know what to do, and I realized it was actually making me very anxious. And so I wanted to just pour out everything that I felt along my hair journey, and as I did that, I ended up writing Fried Hair, Snakes, or Alopecia.
That's so nice. So you mentioned in the first half of your story of being ashamed, and do you think that there was an extra layer of that shame, not only being a woman with alopecia, but being a black woman with alopecia, knowing the weird beauty standards that surrounds how femininity is linked with hair and the history of black women and hair?
I think definitely the intersection with being black did make it more difficult, because it felt like after all the difficulty that black women face with feeling beautiful, after all the obstacles that we encounter, now I'm also having alopecia. It's like we just reclaimed our love for afros and our excitement for having afros, and now I can't participate in that. Definitely having alopecia while black was also another thing. I was like, damn, so I can't even join in on the afro vibe. Right. I have this thing. So, yeah.
Right. It is. It really just adds another layer, because now you're not only met with...
Not only am I not meeting the general beauty standard,
yes.
now I'm not meeting the beauty standard for black
African women. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So it's you're fighting.
Yeah,
you're
fighting.
So an excerpt in your story, you wrote, like most black girls, I was born with kinky hair with the zigzags and coils of type 4 hair, but in many places it is socially unacceptable and deemed unprofessional. So the solution, we relaxed our hair. So this, the same hair that grows from your scalp wasn't so accepted, so you had to conform into something that was straight and unnatural. So how does that make you feel now versus when you were growing up?
I think as a child, I did have sort of this internalized perception that my natural hair was unprofessional or not very beautiful. But to be honest, I don't think I actually ever saw my natural hair until when I cut it and it started to grow. So for most of my childhood, I couldn't remember what it looked like. And I just remember that even growing up, when I'd see people who were natural, there was this internalized perception that people who have natural hair are disorganized and their hair is just messy and this and that. So
they don't know how to take care of themselves.
They don't know what they're doing.
So natural,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how old were you when you decided to go natural? And did your sister, how big of a role did your sister play in that decision?
So I was about 10 years old or so. This was after my sister, just before she was about to leave for her gap year program. And I remember when I saw her, because she had a really cool hairstyle, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then she was also motivating me that, you should go natural, natural hair is really good, this and that. And I think at the time I was also at a point where I was tired of the relaxing game. It was too much. So yeah, I just chose to cut it.
That's nice. It's really bold. There's many periods in my life where I'm like, oh, I want to cut my hair. My mom's like, no, you're gonna lose your beauty, because your beauty is your hair and your hair is your beauty. So it's I think that was a really bold decision. And speaking of decisions, how was that transition from relaxed to natural hair? Because you mentioned how you didn't know like how to do like with your own hair, and your mom who was dealing with your own hair didn't like know how to do it, so you're worried about doing it correctly. So right now, would you say that there's like a correct way of being natural?
I think there are multiple ways to be natural. It's just, firstly, it's kind of subjective, because some people would say that applying heat to your natural hair is incorrect. Others would say if you do it a certain way, it's correct. But I think more of what I meant was, we had no way when I was younger. We didn't know that, maybe LCO methods. We didn't know that the hair needs this kind of moisture. We didn't know that we can't use a fine tooth comb on it. It was just having absolutely no idea whatsoever what to do with this hair. And I mean, for the first, I think 2 to 3 years of my natural hair journey, I was cutting it, so it wasn't like I was growing my afro. I would buzz it I think once every few weeks, and so we didn't have to deal with it until I was like, okay, I want to try to grow my hair.
So like when you then start to grow your hair and you're like figuring out what it is to be a natural, your mom suggested that you try going into the lock journey. How would you say that like influenced your whole natural hair journey? And would you say it would be different if you were like a free natural versus if you're like locked up till now, let's say?
I think each side of being natural does come with its different things. When I think about that time, I don't even know how. I don't know if I would have stayed locked up if I would have proceeded with that journey, because I think I never really had a good perception of them at the time. Like when I had them at the time, I didn't like how they looked on me. I think what happened with the bullies was it kind of felt like they were confirming all the things that I felt internally, because they weren't very cute yet. They were just like really fresh and short and small, locks, so they didn't look like the way other kinds of locks do. So at the time I felt quite insecure about them. But then in terms of maybe the major difference with having locks is that I think when you have like your natural hair out of locks, let's say, it gives you more room to do different kinds of things. And I think I would have missed that, because I do really love playing with hair, like getting braids or getting other kinds of styles. But then I don't know if there's like any that I would have preferred. I think each side has something to offer. Right.
So speaking on like being diverse with your hair, like do you think like there's a lot of stigmatization with black hair, and that has has that limited you from like fully expressing yourself through your hair? And like, do you think if you didn't face the bullying with like having locked up hair, or the bullying with how black hair was treated, then things would have been differently? Like you'd be able to fully embrace that natural side of you? Like,
I would say that I really have so much room to express myself now that I have hair, and I grow it. I think through different styles I can embody being a different person, if that makes any sense. Even something as simple as when you have braids, then you cut them before you're about to take them out. There's just a different feeling that comes with the bob. Now that I have like these I have these long locks, I feel like a whole other person than I would if maybe I had like short passion twists. So I think the different styles, it's actually a beautiful thing that we have so much room to do so many different kinds of things with our hair. And I feel like there's a second part to your question, and I just want to make sure I answer it.
No, I think you answered like both of them actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 in 1. So that, could you tell me, like, there was a period where you then fully embraced that natural hair, like you were doing, what was it called, like black girl magic, your period, like everything was going on, you were loving your natural hair, and then you got the sew-in. Can you tell our listeners about the sew-in?
Okay. So it was in 2017. I met my best friend Tupo, and so Tupo like had a lot more knowledge on the natural hair stuff than I did, and so she also had like products and stuff, and her siblings were also natural, with like her sister has super long hair, and so she would get Tupo products. And so for me at the time, I didn't know how to ask my parents to get me products for my hair, because for them it felt like an unnecessary expense, especially given that having relaxed hair is relatively more affordable than having natural hair, because natural hair requires all these other things. But the relaxed one, at least the process that we used to take, was just hair jam and relax it.
Hair sheen, you're done.
So when I met Tupo and she'd share me some of her products, it was like I could literally see my hair drinking it up. Like, this is what it had been craving for so long, and it was going good. Then what happened with the sewing was I don't even know why I got it, but I wanted to do like some baddie things. So I got this sewing. It was like inches. I even remember I got lashes done poorly. And I was just like feeling myself. But when they were installing it, I felt like, even the same day, it was very tight at the back of my head. I was like, this is really tight. But I was like, first day of sewing anything in or braiding anything, it's gonna be quite tight, so it's fine. Tightness did not ease up. It stayed tight. And I remember I was feeling at the back of my head, underneath the weave, I was like trying to feel around, and I could feel that something is missing. Something's missing. And so I was like, but you know what, whatever, it's sewed in, so they just probably tucked it into the sides. I don't know, I tried to explain it to myself. Then I was tired. I was like, okay, enough of that. They took it out, and then I see a gap. Well, I didn't see it because I've never seen the back of my head, but I feel this gap. I'm like something is missing. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's probably just a small one. It's not that deep. Cool. Then I just did my hair, this and that, and then I put it up in that kind of, it's not a bun, but when you just put the headband and pull your hair back up,
that big puff.
Yeah, the big puff, basically. Yeah, I put it in that, and I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna go to school. Like, it's not that deep. And then someone stops me and they're like, hey, what's going on at the back of your head? I'm like, huh? What do you mean what's going on at the back of my head? So you can see.
Oh no. Wow. And so that's when you discovered that you had traction alopecia.
So the thing is, at the time, I thought that my hair had just been yanked out. Like, I thought it just got cut off. I was like, okay, so you know what? It's gonna grow back because hair grows. So I was like, yeah, this is not that deep. But then when I came to the conclusion that I have traction alopecia, it's been how many years now? 3. And my hair at the back of my head still doesn't really grow over there.
And one thing I'd say, like, over this course that I've known you and stalking your Instagram, I'd say you went through like a sort of renaissance or Ren-hair-sance. My jokes are terrible, but and it brought an array of like different types of explorations with your hair and experimentation with your hair. Would you say that alopecia, in a way, kind of brought you to, would I say, have fun and appreciate your hair in ways that you may not have if you didn't have alopecia?
I think there are things that I tried and explored that I probably wouldn't have if I didn't have alopecia. So, I mean, I don't know if I don't want to say that having alopecia was like great because it allowed me to do these things, but then it's through having alopecia that I was able to do these things that I turned out to love. If that makes any sense.
No, that definitely makes sense.
I don't know if I would have ever buzzed my hair and gone blonde if I didn't feel like that was one of the ways I could feel beautiful despite having alopecia. I don't know if I would have ever tried going bald if I never experienced alopecia. So it did allow me to explore more, but then I can't say that the intention was always like a pure one. So it was usually just to cover up the fact that there's alopecia.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. And we're going like a little sideways a little bit. We want to get some context. But do you consider yourself a feminine person?
Yeah, I think I'm really in touch with my femininity.
And would you say, like, either back then or now, your hair was linked to that femininity?
I think in a very subconscious way, yes. I think with the hair situation, the whole hair thing, it's not like a spoken thing. I think it's more of an unspoken thing where even wigs, for example, the wigs that everybody really goes crazy over, inches, like those kinds of things. If somebody gets like a very small wig, yeah, fine, it's cute, but then the hype is around inches.
Right.
And just even braids. When somebody gets super long braids, we're like, oh my god, your braid.
Yeah.
So that to me is a subconscious indicator that we associate having longer hair with, I don't know, being more pretty or like
being more feminine.
Yeah, like it's it's nice. And so for me, like when I couldn't experience that, let's say naturally, and because I did my attempt to level my hair was like cutting all of it off so that it all grows together, and so obviously as I waited for it, I couldn't experience things like braids and this and that, and so in that time when it was like super short, I felt very unfeminine.
Right. So going back to when you cut your hair, like November 2019, you had fears of how people would perceive you. Would you say, like back then, you linked your hair to your self-worth and confidence also? We're just doing a lot of linking here.
At the time, I think it was more of what I had observed around me. I'd seen that women with shorter hair did not receive as much attention and this and that, and I also saw even the stigmas that people had of people with short hair. It was like, oh, maybe she can't afford to like get like these inches and this and that, so she just keeps it short, because obviously going to a barber and just buzzing it is like a lot cheaper. And another small thing that was like a deterring fact was even attractions, like with people. I was worried people wouldn't find me attractive because then I don't have hair. I don't know where this originated from, but then like deep within me, I just really associated beauty with hair.
Right. Like even now, I like think that's a really great question. Like where does like attractiveness and having hair like stem from?
Yeah.
It's really strange.
I've actually
like,
never thought about it, but yeah.
Big think piece actually. So you mentioned that you had you felt a sort of betrayal with yourself, with your body, through your hair journey. Can you tell me why that is?
I think I realized I felt the betrayal when, as I was writing actually, I was just thinking that, what is going on? Because I mean, things have been tough, this life is tough. And it just felt like this was another thing that just didn't go right. I was like, really, do I need, like, even my body is like against me at this point. So that betrayal is kind of actually packaged in with me thinking of so many different things in my life have gone quote unquote wrong. And so now even just like something that should be as simple as hair just growing, like things just grow automatically. There's no form, even if you never put a single drop of product in your hair, it will just grow. And mine is choosing not to do that. So I felt betrayed because it was like, I really need to start this fight also among all the other things.
Right. Yeah. And like, do you still harbor those feelings of like resentment, betrayal? Do you still?
I think I've come to a point where I'm very accepting of just being a human, because there's a lot of things that are out of my control, and imperfection is everywhere. Imperfection is in all things. And so I don't feel betrayed by my body anymore because I am my body. So I don't feel betrayed by myself in any way. And I'm accepting that imperfection is normal.
Right.
And it's actually quite beautiful.
Hear that? Say that again. Imperfection is normal and beautiful.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to put that on my wall. Lorraine Tayamika Chilemba. And lastly, how would you describe your journey of self-acceptance, like, to this point? And would you say you still have, like, you have reached that zen, that moment where you're like, yes, I'm totally content with myself, like, or do you still have your days where you're like, oh, no, today I'm not really feeling my best self?
I do have my days where and there's different things that also cause them. And I don't know if anyone can just get to a point where they're perfect all the time. I think it's the intention of how you soothe yourself in those moments where when I don't feel super great about myself, then I will intentionally do things that make me feel better about myself. Or I will challenge the thoughts that I may have. So if I say, start feeling like, I don't know, bad about, say my skin, just a random one. Like, because I don't really think about my hair that much anymore, but then maybe other things. So say if I'm feeling bad about my skin and then I start nitpicking, then question myself that, okay, where exactly does this opinion come from, and why do you uphold it, and what exactly is the source of this, and why is it so important to be different? I think what I try to ask myself is what's the root of this, and why is it such an important thing for me to oppose it or to have something different? So I mean, I don't know, I really don't believe in ever being in a perfect zen state consistently where you don't feel bad sometimes. It's just natural, it's just normal. But I think it's how you respond to that and how you draw yourself out.
That is so beautiful, actually. You said it so well. And I'd want to say, like, to me, you're like one of the most confident people like that I see, and like I admire you for that. Like, I think, was it earlier today I saw you and I'm like, you walk in like you own the space, and you're like, I do, and I'm like, yes, that's like, I love that kind of attitude and that I don't know, your presence that you have. I don't know, I think it's really inspiring, and I just really admire it, and I just thought I'd say that out there.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, you're welcome. Once again, I appreciate you for taking the time to chat with me and sharing your story, your experiences with me, not only with me, but like to the listeners as well. And I think it's safe to say that like you have posed as a great, at least like influence and inspiration, at least for me, like being bold enough to like share your story like that, something that is like so vulnerable. And yeah, I just think it's a great show of boldness, and I love that you own yourself like in this way, and it's really great. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to talk about it. I think part of the reason that I chose to open up about it is, well, three things. Firstly, because I wanted to free myself from the weight of keeping that secret. Because now, if I just put my hair up and we all see that there's nothing in the back of my, well, there's something, but we all see that it's like significantly shorter. We all know what's going on, so we don't have to act weird about it. And then I also recognize that a lot of people experience this in different degrees, even if it's losing your edges. That in itself is a form of alopecia. And I just want us to be free from the shame of just natural body responses and stuff. So yeah, I am very glad to have been able to reclaim this for myself and to also help other people. And thank you for giving me a platform to also once again talk about it. Thank you so much.
Of course, you're so welcome. Again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time. All right, bye.
Bye.
This has been Through the Looking Glass with your sister in power, Kosi Danielle. If you haven't already, please support and subscribe to my podcast where I upload bi-weekly. You can also show support to my Instagram page, TTLG Podcast, that is TTLG Podcast, by following, sharing, anything you'd like. You can also find more details about that in the show notes. I also invite you to join the conversation by sharing this episode to someone who might enjoy it, or send me an email or an Instagram DM saying that you want to share your own story. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening in, and until next time.